Welcome back in, everyone. Here on the Low Ball Pod. He's Lucas. I'm Owen, and we are back to break down pretty awesome week of football from week 2 of the NFL. There, lots of close games, especially in that early slate. That 1 o'clock slate was like just was there like 4 or 5 games at the end, just going down to the end, and it was like
If you were in the red zone in that 1 o'clock slate, it was nonstop mayhem. Like
it was insane. I mean, I feel like last week was a nice little introduction back into it. Like we said, it's kind of overwhelming, but this week felt like we were like really back in the thick of it with like all these teams just in such a dogfight. And I don't know, you kind of remember like how desperate everyone is every week for every game. It's like just so entertaining, man. Such a special league. But your team was actually one of the teams in maybe the biggest dogfight of the week, one of the craziest games you'll see of the year. The Giants Cowboys. What happened, man?
dude, this game it was really hard to describe. I mean, just an offensive onslaught from both sides, and I want to say I'm encouraged from at least how our offense did turn out performing in this game, but then you look at the flip side and it was
Yeah,
pretty measly on the other side. And I mean, man, there's almost no words to describe this game. I mean, it was nonstop offense on both ends, especially down the stretch. Huge plays from Malik Neighbors, 2 massive touchdown grabs. George Pickens gets his first for Dallas in the final minutes of the game, and some huge field goals from Brandon Aubrey at the end to break our hearts here in New York. But I mean, just an explosion. I mean, if you're a Dallas fan, this game has to feel great after losing that close one the opening week. But man, what another heartbreak for the Giants. We're no strangers to it here.
dude, I can't imagine being a fan for either of these teams during that game. That was just a roller coaster. Like, truly no idea who was going to win it the whole time. I mean, it looked like you guys kind of walked away with it with that insane throw to Neighbors. There was what, like 25 seconds left, but
Unbelievable.
you
And
you
also,
truly can't count out Brandon Aubrey. I do gotta
sorry to
say
cut you off, but Russell Wilson just had his career high in passing yards. Like,
he
what is
was
going on?
slinging it. He was
Insane.
absolutely slinging the rock around, like down the field, over the middle. It did not matter. Russ was really on fire this whole game up until that last drive and kind of a questionable interception there. But I mean, the good news for the Giants is that was super encouraging. Probably one of the best games I've seen from Russ. He started out just on fire. Like the Cowboys were probably a little slower into this game, but the Giants were really kind of on it the whole time. Russ starts the game. He was kind of thrown in over the middle a lot, which you don't really see a lot. He had Wan'Dale Robinson on a couple of those deep down the middle throws. Dude, the Cowboys defense was letting these like bombs on them the whole game. I was really confused about what they were trying there because it just felt like these guys were untouched, getting space down the field, just picking them apart. And yeah, Russ can certainly throw the deep ball. That's probably his biggest strength, and he showed it out today. I do have to say the Neighbors connection looked great. Of course, he was getting everyone involved, but yeah, just it wasn't a complete performance, unfortunately, because the last throw was definitely kind of a head scratcher. Not quite sure what he was thinking there. It was about 10 yards too much and gets picked off to seal the game. Yeah, I would say both defenses. This is a pretty pitiful one. The Giants might kind of started out looking all right on defense, I would say. You can tell that this team has a lot of talent on that side of the ball. I thought they were getting pressure on Dak early, kind of making him uncomfortable. Drew Phillips picks him off early, but just I feel like this might be kind of the difference in coaching quality versus overall talent because the Giants have kind of quietly been stacking a lot of talent on that side of the ball, and you saw it on display at times here, but I felt like Dallas was really able to adjust. And towards the end of the game, Dak was just kind of picking these guys apart. even when he would get set back, it just like on that last drive, not the last drive to end it, but the one that set them up before the neighbors Hail Mary. You guys set them back a couple of times, but it was like Javonte Williams breaks a 26-yarder, like Dak like hits Pickens and it gets called back, but they just kind of just continued to have answers for it. So would have been really discouraging for the Cowboys if you lose this and you're looking at 0-2 after that promising start, but they do rebound and they are kind of in the hunt. On the flip side, for the Giants, we've talked about just how crazy their schedule is. And when you're looking at the games that are winnable, it's not much, and you really wish that you could have this one back. It was so manageable, too. Like I said, at the end, it felt like they kind of forgot that they had Brandon Aubrey on the other side, and this team only has to get to like the 50-yard line to hit a field goal. They were playing pretty soft defense on there. So,
Yeah,
like I said, kind of comes back to maybe some coaching blunders on the Giants' defensive side of the ball, unfortunately.
yeah. I feel like one thing the Cowboys can hang their hat on is if the game ever comes down to a 2-minute drill or even less, like we saw yesterday, they can feel very safe about at least the field positioning required to secure a win. So definitely
Certainly.
a heartbreaker there. And quick shout out to Cam Scatabo. I just wanted to say he did get his first ever rushing touchdown yesterday, and he looked pretty good on the ground. Over 4 yards a carry, and definitely outpaced Tyrone Tracy yesterday. So curious to see that how that continues to play out there. And then just on the Dallas side, one more time. I mean, they just find their bell cow. I mean, Javonte Williams has looked amazing these first 2 weeks. So if that is going to stick, another huge outlet of offense opens up for them. So curious to see how that goes moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, both backs were pretty all right in this game. Cam looks like he's probably taken over the reins there pretty quickly. He had some nice plays for sure. Just kind of you can see how the tough running style is translated over from college. He does not look like a fun guy to tackle, man. He runs pretty pissed off. Definitely showed some pass catching chops too. So yeah, at least you have a promising looking rookie to look forward to if you're a Giants fan. But if we want to hop over to the next game that we have set to talk about here, a surprising game, but not necessarily in the same way. The Bears just get absolutely flattened by the Lions in week 2, and just pretty disappointing showing from the Bears, especially defensively. The offense couldn't keep up either. The Lions make kind of a statement here that their offense looks pretty all right without Ben Johnson based on today. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, exactly. That is the main takeaway. I know there was a lot of concern after week 1, and that was fair. I mean, they only had one touchdown in that game, and it came in absolute garbage time. And for the Lions to bounce back like this, it's got to feel amazing. And I feel like that more so gives us an easier takeaway from week 1 that is just the Green Bay Packers defense is absolutely elite. So anyone that goes up against them might be in for a long week. But yeah, I mean, the lines were clicking on all facets. You had Jahmyr Gibbs really break open the running game after a pretty big struggle efficiency-wise last week. Got in the end zone, and so did Monty. And then Amon-Ra just took over offensively through the air. He had 3 touchdowns to his name. Him and JMO both clear 100 yards on the day. And JMO does it with only 2 catches in classic JMO fashion. So they were really clicking everywhere here. And yeah, I mean, you got to feel good about this one. The Detroit Lions definitely seem back on offense.
Yeah, it was very encouraging if you're a Lions fan. That past game certainly felt like it was back. It seemed like those receivers had a lot more space down the field. Again, not sure if that's a Bears defense thing or a Lions thing, but these guys were getting open pretty much all game. The game started out with Amon Ra within might have been the first play of the game. He had like a 34-yard catch, and the Lions just scored damn near every possession, and it was not much looking back for them. Um, Pretty encouraging if you're a Jared Goff fan. He was pretty untouchable, and I think definitely a sigh of relief for Craig Morton too, the new Lions offensive coordinator. They definitely seemed a lot more buckled up today. Perhaps it was, like you said, just not expecting the tenaciousness of that Green Bay defense that we've seen, but super encouraging there. I would say the run game, it's obviously looked better this week. I don't know if it's 100% back to the levels. I would say you still kind of feel the effects of those departures from the offensive line, but when you have that passing game playing like that and just Amon-Ra and Goff kind of on the same page like they were today, you just kind of remember why this team was such a finely oiled machine last year, and they certainly showed it, putting up 52 points. That's just ridiculous. On the Bears side of things, it just feels like this team can get sidetracked so easily. I kind of felt almost the same thing about Caleb, except it felt like they were going up against a much less forgiving team. You definitely see the flashes again in there, and you definitely see that Ben Johnson is trying to keep this thing under wraps, playing under center in a very formulated offense, but it's just a little obvious that they don't quite have the grit and toughness that Johnson really likes to play with and that he was able to last year. Pretty early on in the game, they get stuffed on a 4th and 1 where I think they try QB sneaking it to Caleb, and it's just like you can tell that Ben Johnson just wants to be able to like lean on that run game and have some easy buttons, but it was really not there today. And like I said, Caleb was just again very inconsistent, as this is kind of unfortunately becoming the story of his young career. There was a play where I feel like it kind of encapsulated it perfectly. He eludes the pressure, gets out of the pocket, looks great, flashing his athleticism, and just ends up throwing a mindless pick right to the defense again. I think it was in like the second quarter. It's the drive after that 4th and 1. And I've been saying this, but he really just needs to calm down. It feels like he gets the pressure. He does so well to elude that, but he gets going so much, and it just like not able to think through and finish these plays. So Johnson's got to find a way to rein him in. It doesn't seem like the under center offense is doing that alone. And yeah, like I said, on the other side of the ball, the defense just looked very scattered. There was a lot of room for the Lions passing attack, and just overall, it's pretty bad. That Jameson Williams touchdown looked like a busted coverage. He got behind the whole defense, it seemed like, went in pretty much untouched. Yeah, they are kind of starting to like a pipe like bursting from the seams. It seems like there's just all these kind of holes that are starting to rear their ugly heads. I mean, they go against two of the better run operations in the league, in the Vikings and Lions, but I mean, you're in a tough division, and you're going to have to play those teams again. You're going to have to play the Packers. So really no room for these inconsistencies, and I think that starts with Caleb. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And the only other takeaway for me is you kind of touched on this, but I feel like, I mean, what made the Lions so elite and how Ben Johnson really made his money last year is obviously through that run game, and that kind of opens everything up and allows him to create some of those plays that make him so special. But I mean, obviously, going from a 1-2 punch of Gibbs and Monty to then DeAndre Swift is not ideal in that type of situation. But yeah, I would like to see more of a ground attack, at least attempt to be established by Chicago, because I think if they can kind of get that going, it will open up more for Caleb and kind of take a little bit more pressure on him. But we'll see if they're able to do that in coming weeks.
Yeah, and it's tough with Swift. You know, he'll have an occasional highlight, but he's just, you know, historically not a guy who's going to hang in there and really hit the gap when he needs to and execute that disciplined kind of under center run game and it's a shame because Ben Johnson really does have a lot of options for a very multiple run game like we saw in Detroit. They kind of mix it inside, outside, all sorts of stuff. This unit just really doesn't have the discipline to do that. One shout out on the Bears offense, Roma Dunze. He looked super good. I thought he looked good in week 1 too, and he really balled out today over 100 yards. Did he get in twice too? I think
got in
he
twice.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
He looks elite. And one other thing to kind of comment on the run game too, Kyle Monungai. Curious to see if he'll get a little bit more involved moving forward. Did get 7 carries yesterday too, but
yeah, he would be kind of that between the tackles, more Montgomery role in this offense. And I know some
exactly.
people liked him coming out of Rutgers, but I guess one last thing to touch on with this game is I did think the Lions defense actually looked pretty good, to give them some credit. Not
They did.
all unforced errors on the Lions' part. You saw some of that talent flashing. Swift got absolutely blown up by Brian Branch on a big hit early. And yeah, that's just a crazy play. I thought they were getting some pressure. The run game was really getting stuffed by some of those guys along the stout Lions defensive line. So not entirely mess solely on the Lions or Bears part, but definitely not too encouraging on that front. But if we want to hop over to a more exciting game from that 1 o'clock slate,
For you,
yeah,
especially.
my Patriots got their first win of the season, and man, this one was an absolute roller coaster. I still am not like completely satisfied or feel great about the just the overall state of the Patriots, but getting in the win column definitely feels great. Drake May was awesome in this one. He absolutely balled out. You know, week 1, I talked a lot about him having some spotty accuracy. He kind of missed some of the easier ones. Just in this Josh McDaniels offense that likes to dink and dunk and spread the ball out all over the place. It seemed like May wasn't 100% up to the task there. There were some questions if there was a little too much on his plate trying to execute this complex offense, but definitely not the case today. He was super accurate. They really did just that. They dinked and dunked the whole way through. May completed over 80% of his passes on a lot of short routes. That's the one thing I would still want to see from the offense. Not too many explosive plays. Could certainly be a personnel thing because it's not the craziest group of weapons, although it does feel like it's rounding out a little bit better. But yeah, May was really able to kind of pick his way through this one. He didn't have his traditional like aggressive nature. He only had an average depth of target of 5.8, which is probably a little below average for sure, but he was super accurate in executing that. Also importantly, Ramondre Stevenson in the run game really bounced back. They were able to establish that pretty early. Really kept going to it, and Ramondre kept coming through on those. Felt like he had a lot more space up the middle and all that.
He had that one huge play through the middle.
Yeah, he had a big one through the middle. He also had a big catch in the pass game. Just a great play on both parts there. May threw a great one, and Stevenson full extension. Reached out and got it, but this was a wild game, man. Really, it got going with the Patriots were kind of starting to sputter in the second half. They had a couple of 3-and-outs. They were getting a lot of penalties, which I'll talk about later. Still a little frustrated in that department. And the Dolphins offense was really starting to get back on track. And I think they took the lead. And maybe I think the Patriots actually took the lead. And then we
It
had a
was just,
chance to push it, and we punted away, and they get that kick return touchdown
and then you return one.
that takes it, and then back the next play, the Patriots bring a kick return touchdown, which was just as that was a wild series of events.
That was insane, and I just want to say that was going on like while the mayhem in the Dallas game was also
Yeah,
going on. Just contributed to that insane 1 o'clock slate.
yeah, no, yeah. It was really a lot going on. And if you were on red zone, your head was spinning between all the. I think they had the quad box going with a bunch of like games that were one score with a couple minutes left. But yeah, on the negatives for the Patriots, like I mentioned, the penalties were a huge thing. They were really just starting to add up. The false starts are getting a little ridiculous. You have to kind of question the discipline at that point, because they've, I think, 2 games in a row they've had close to 10 penalties in each, and that is just gonna allow teams to keep hanging around, especially in this offense that I mentioned isn't as explosive. So when you get, set back into a second and long, it's definitely going to be a little bit harder to convert that. And yeah, that started throwing a rut in. And the Dolphins, I will give them credit. They kind of got things going in that second and third quarter there. They got the balls in the hands of their playmakers. It looked like their offense was starting to look like how it did in, their kind of glory days, get putting guys in motion and their stars in motion and just getting them the ball. But ultimately, it really came down to a couple of key opportunities that Tua really just wasn't able to take care of. It he's obviously never been the most poised player in the league. That it's been clearly recorded that the Dolphins aren't great in big games, but felt like at the end, they really weren't able to make much happen. And the Patriots defense were the unit that stepped up. Harold Landry came in late and had a big sack after that Patriots kick return. Tua throws a pick on that drive, and the Patriots, with their penalties, unfortunately, bailed them out again. So they ended up punting back, and A-Chain really almost he almost pushed it to another lead for them, but he stepped out, and it was a pretty ugly end to the game. It was fun to watch, but yeah, ultimately the Dolphins weren't able to get it together, and the Patriots culminate in a big Milton Williams sack at the end of the game to get the win. So definitely some messy areas, but the offense came up when it needed to. They got a big play on the kick return. They're just gonna have to kind of clean some things up. And for the Dolphins, it's pretty brutal loss here. I mean, I believe they play the Bills next week, and that's not really one that's too realistic to set your sights on after how the first two have looked. I mean, I've never been a big Tua guy, so I can't really offer too much optimism for them there. But yeah, this team is, the vibes just kind of feel bad. They certainly did last week, and I feel like they had a kind of a chance to rebound on those, and just Tua's kind of showed he's not really the leader type of guy to really change that. Unfortunately, I don't mean to be too negative on the guy. It's it's tough, when your quarterback is so limited to the situation. He really doesn't offer too much out of structure. If, like I said, they were able to draw up some nice stuff with putting Hill and A-Chain in motion. Malik Washington, I think his name is, kind of fits the build as one of their short, little, speedy guys. They were able to cook some stuff up, and if guys were immediately open, it would work, but there really wasn't too much creation from Tua. And ultimately, at the end, the Patriots were able to cover it up well enough, and he wasn't able to force too much. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I think you kind of hit it on the nail with Tua, and you can feel at least a lot better about how dynamic Drake Maye looked in comparison to their quarterback, of course. But yeah, I mean, if you do want to take away one positive for the Dolphins, like you did touch on, I mean, last week was just an absolute disaster. This week, at least, your offense looked a lot more sensible. And, I mean, Tyreek Hill had his best game in what seems like forever, eclipsing 100 yards. And Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, they all played solid. So that's really what you want out of their offense. But, I mean, yeah, I'm just about as low as on this team and Tua as you are at this point. I think the vibes are off, and there's just might be heading further downhill as the weeks go on.
Yeah, I don't know how you could feel too great about this team. It's hard to imagine a scenario where people walk away from this season with their jobs. It seems like they're a couple losses away from letting go of Mike McDaniel, and yeah, probably trading Tyreek. I know there's a lot of stuff going on there with his legal situation. I don't think they're allowed to get added to his contract for another year or two. Probably trending towards a rebuild in Miami, unfortunately.
Agreed.
Two teams who aren't really looking at a rebuild had a pretty good game in the afternoon slate, though. The Colts and the Broncos have a pretty dramatic one in Indianapolis, and
Another insane ending.
dude, that is that is a pretty brutal way to lose. I actually lost some money on this game, so I know how you guys feel, Broncos fans. But the I don't know. The Broncos committed a leverage on the center on a missed field goal at the very end as time expired and gives the Colts kicker another shot. They move it 15 yards forward and doesn't miss it twice. Pretty brutal one there.
Brutal.
I don't really know how to come to terms with it as a Denver fan because you were in the right place. You forced a 60-yard field goal or so at the end. Obviously, there were some missed opportunities before that. Bo Nix was certainly not too sharp in the second half, but that was a brutal way to lose.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, on the flip side, if you're the Colts after this start, though, like you got to feel phenomenal about where you're at. I mean, their offense has been easily like one of the best in the league so far, behind Daniel Jones, who has looked amazing and threw for another 300 yards on pretty solid efficiency again. Um, really spreading the ball out as well. I mean, first, you can't say enough about what the rookie tight end Tyler Warren has done for them. For these first 2 weeks, him and Jones have developed a pretty instant connection, and it's very showing. And then all of Pittman, Downs, Alec Pierce, they all were pretty heavily involved and played their roles. And I mean, Jones just keeps spreading the wealth, keeps kind of finding this success with these guys, and then of course it all runs through Jonathan Taylor, who was just phenomenal yesterday. Had a couple huge breakaway runs and ended up finding the end zone as well. One of the best running backs in the league still, and he continues to show it.
Yeah, this offense looks like a pretty efficient unit. I love the way that the weapons room like kind of complements it out. It's a very balanced approach. Alex Pierce had some pretty awesome plays in this. He had the bomb, and they got him involved kind of underneath a couple of times. He's a pretty awesome mix of size and speed. They got Josh Downs a little more involved too. He had a couple big plays, setting him in motions on some third downs. But yeah, like you said, it absolutely all runs through Taylor, who had 165 yards on the ground today. He is just a phenomenal back, man. He has such great vision, is such a strong runner, and he has a couple of plays in this one that just flip the game on its head. And like you said, Daniel Jones just continues to just do enough for this Shane Steichen offense to operate. He once again avoids turning the ball over and just plays a very clean game. They're not asking him to do too much, and he has a pretty awesome situation. So if they can, keep him clean, keep him off of pressure, and keep scheming these guys open. I mean, this is an offense that looks pretty well oiled right now. The line was really awesome too. Jones was not affected too much by the Broncos defense at all today. It was really not working for the Broncos offense in anywhere. I know they had a couple of sacks on some blitzes, but the secondary also was, getting pretty attacked too. Jones wasn't really showing too much fear to Pat Surtain, actually, even, who didn't have his best game. He was targeted a couple of times. I mean, he don't get me wrong, it wasn't a disaster or anything, but all around, the Colts look pretty serious. And I mean, I guess they earned this one, but
Up for debate, yeah.
yeah. I guess on the other side for the Broncos, you could kind of argue that they didn't earn this one as much because I think the last score they had was it in the third quarter or so. I
Yeah, they went
think
scoreless in the fourth.
yeah, Dobbins ran that one in, and after that, Bo Nix throws a pretty boneheaded pick to Cam Bynum. That was when they were driving down. I think it was. I know they got the ball kind of inside the 10-yard line. I think they were a little further than that because it was a big overthrow. But yeah, it seemed like there was a little tension on the Broncos sidelines. Even Bo Nix looked pretty visibly frustrated in this, and he wasn't terrible. The connection with Troy Franklin definitely flashed a little, but he wasn't really able to get either of their um big play guys going in Sutton, who had a quiet game, and Evan Ingram really hasn't been able to take too prominent of a role in this offense. So um yeah, they had a couple of chances late to seal it, but unfortunately they let this one fade through the seams, and it was also pretty unfortunate because I think they missed like a 40 something yard kick to um eventually set up that Colts drive, and then the defense really didn't even do it. I mean, the penalty is just the big blow in
It's
this
a
one.
heartbreaker, yeah.
um but yeah,
But
obviously the Broncos weren't perfect.
yeah, I will say though, you mentioned a little bit of animosity maybe on the sideline between Nix and Peyton. That was definitely a pretty notable moment. But yeah, definitely a kind of a slumping start for Bo Nix here in his sophomore season. We'll see if he can rebound going forward. But if you don't have anything else to say on this game, of course, I know there was at least one more we wanted to touch on here. There was a very important game that did happen yesterday, a Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and Eagles, and the same outcome occurred in that game as we saw back in February. But
A little
any
less ugly.
takeaways? Yeah, any takeaways here?
I mean, this one was kind of a slugfest for sure. I think Jalen Hurts finished with. Did he finish with under 100 yards, or did he eventually
101.
get over?
He got there.
Yeah. So I think it just kind of speaks to this Eagles team, though. They don't have to get too flashy for things to work. I mean, especially the tush push was on full display today. They had the two consecutive tush pushes that sent them into the end zone for the kind of the ceiling score in this one. Although the Chiefs would have a chance later, but yeah, I mean they were just kind of able to uglily squeak this one out. No real fireworks on either side. You have the Eagles who just kind of continue to gut it out. Saquon was around like 4 yards a carry. Pass game wasn't able to get going for 2 weeks in a row, which is, starting to get kind of worrisome with the new offensive coordinator over there. You really got to start to get something shown up. Although I do have to say, AJ Brown had one of the craziest 4 yard catches that you'll ever
That
see.
was nuts.
Yeah, he one hand snags it kind of last minute on that. But
He's hungry, man. Got to feed him.
Yeah,
I mean,
gotta get him involved more for sure.
this guy has less than 40 yards on the season. We're 2 games in. Like, that's a big deal. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, overall, the Eagles probably had less than 250 yards of offense. So, I mean, yeah, they can gut out a win like that, and they've shown it time and time again. Is it ideal for maybe their player stats? Probably not. Probably not for some of you fantasy guys out there. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, it gets the job done. So that's what they'll hang their hat on the end of the day. On the flip side, in Kansas City, I
It's
mean,
pretty ugly on that side too.
their offense is looking real rough, and I can't say I blame them being down Rice and Xavier Worthy. And I mean, your lead um, receiver today was Travis Kelce with 60 yards. So, I mean, definitely a little bit of work to do there going forward. And Hollywood Brown, very encouraging week one. He was a lot more down to earth today. So we'll see if Worthy does continue to be out, if Brown can continue to carve out a larger role for himself. And another thing for Kansas City, so far they just really cannot get the run game going at all. Outside of Mahomes, who's had some pretty awesome scrambles and Mahomes type of plays. I mean, Kareem Hunt and Pacheco, 18 carries, less than 55 yards combined. I mean, you got to be better there with that 1-2 punch. So,
It's
yeah, definitely
horrible.
some concerning stuff there for Kansas City.
Yeah, the Chiefs can't run it at all. It's pretty bad, and it definitely flashed against this Eagles front. I mean, they were outside of Mahomes scrambling, which he was pretty elite at in this game. They really could not get much going. Pacheco kind of continued to look very slow, and Kareem Hunt, we know who he is, just kind of a big guy who you push forward at this point. But the Chiefs kind of have like the opposite of what the Eagles have going, just like the passing attack version. Like they have no explosiveness to their pass game whatsoever, but their run game sucks, so they have to lean on it. Whereas the Eagles just kind of lean on their run game to get them um these short long drives going. The um the Chiefs have to do that just with passing it, and it was pretty ugly to watch. It was just straight underneath stuff with Kelsey and Hollywood Brown trying to scheme stuff open. They had the one shot to Tyquan Thornton that looked good, but Mahomes actually wasn't overly accurate on kind of those longer balls today and missed a couple of opportunities. I know he missed one to Thornton late. But yeah, I mean, this team is in a pretty crippled place right now. You know, I don't want to quite like break the panic glass yet. It's week two, but at least for the next 5 weeks or so until they get Rice back, this offense is really going to have to do some soul searching and figure some stuff out. And I feel like it's kind of a reflection on the front office almost a little bit that it's kind of come to this. Like, is an old Pacheco and Kareem Hunt like really the best you could have done at running back? I mean, we talked about Javonte Williams earlier. Like, he looks awesome. I mean, if they had him, maybe things would look a little different right now. But this run game is just lethargic to say the least. And you got to feel for Mahomes in the passing game. I mean, he can still make the occasional tough play, but it's a slog just watching this team and just really just a gross semblance of parts. On the defensive side, you know, that I thought they did their job. You know, like we said, they held the Eagles to a pretty ugly game, but I mean, if you're going to get into an ugly game with the Eagles, it's not really in your best interest because they can grit it out
That's what they do.
tougher than anyone. So yeah, not not the brightest outlook for the Chiefs, and the schedule continues to get tough. I think moving forward next week they actually have the Giants in prime time, so that's a must-win game. Absolutely, must-win game for both teams. But more so
Huge
for
one.
the Chiefs with your aspirations. If you slip up in prime time to the Giants and everybody watches it, it's gonna, I can only imagine, because you got the Ravens after that, which is going to be really tough to match that team, especially if you want to play an ugly game. That's probably the one other team that can, out will you there. But I mean, they will get, the good news is they will get Rice back at some point. They will get Hollywood Brown. So hopefully look into the future for things to get better. But if that's all on those games, if we just want to do a quick little look into the games tonight, unless you have anything to say there.
Yeah, I'm definitely down to get into that. Yeah, I agree that the Chiefs looking pretty bleak going forward. But pertaining to the games tonight, funny enough, I saw we already have a score in the Houston game. Looks like Nico Collins got in the end zone there. So shout out to him. I know he had a pretty ugly week 1, but got to feel good there. And the Texans got on the board early.
Yeah, that's big for them, because I know in that game I'm gonna have to start it from the beginning. I know, because but that you definitely want to get out to the races there. You don't want to get into too contentious of a game there, because they really can't. We saw last week they weren't able to drum up too much when you get into a situation where the defense feels like they can throw a lot of pressure at you. So that will be certainly one to watch. I mean, I guess if that game has started, we definitely want to hustle to get out of here. If we just want to talk about the the last game really quick, I think that's going to be a really entertaining game. I really I think a lot of people are kind of underrating the Raiders going into this game, and I think the passing attack can really fly with Gino there. I know Brock is a little questionable in this one, so that will be a big key there, because they need they need all the pieces in play there, to get that passing attack going, because they don't necessarily have the most explosive options. I love the way they moved Brock around before the injury last week. But I'm also looking to them to, get the run game a little more dynamic looking. The Patriots seemed like they were really selling out on that when they played them in week 1, but maybe with a little more air over the top, they'll be able to squeak that out there. And for the Chargers, I'll be looking forward to see if they can kind of replicate the aggressiveness from Herbert they had last week, the involvement from all the weapons, and see if the defense was really as imposing as it looked last week, or if it was kind of just this ugly Chiefs team muttering along.
Yeah, that's a very exciting game. It's a late start time. Unfortunately, I wish I could stay up for the whole thing, but hopefully be able to catch at least the first 3 quarters or so. If I had to place a prediction, I would guess that the Chargers get out of that one, but wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders turn it up a little bit. Offensively, Ashton Genty's second game, Geno Smith's second game under center. We'll see how involved Bowers is, like you said. But yeah, I trust Herbert, and I think they looked really sharp week 1, and I would expect them to build on it.
All right, what are your 2 predictions for the outcomes of those ones, real quick?
You know what? I know Houston already scored, but I'm gonna say the Bucks come back and win that one, and then I'm gonna go Bucks and Chargers tonight.
I'm gonna go with dead the opposite. I think the Raiders
Nice.
pull the upset, and I think that the Texans already hold on to their supposed lead right now. So bit of a shorter episode for you here today, guys. We obviously have the time constraints with the earlier kickoff today and just some scheduling things. So yep, next week we'll be back at one or not one on Monday to break down the week 3 action again, and look out for us this weekend to throw in another fun NBA outlook, or talk a little bit more about some cool NFL topics. But yeah,
NBA
until then,
season, a week and a month from yesterday. Fun fact. October
there we go.
21st.
There we go. Where's the first game this year?
Not that we're counting. That's a great question. I know the opening game, I
They
believe
always have those 2. Those 2 games to start out, right?
I believe the opening 2 games were in OKC versus Houston, and OKC can raise their banner. And then I want to say the second
I think
game was Lakers somebody, which would totally make sense.
that'll be a super cool one.
I forget
But
who they
yeah, well,
play, but
we'll definitely ramp up the NBA content before the season gets going. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe to support, and we'll get back to you later this week.
check us out on TikTok too.
Yep, TikTok page is up and running. All right, take care.